Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with the Madame Cristo. That's right, this started out as an attempt to do a little bit of a twist on the croque madame. But upon completion, I realized that basically I had made a Monte Cristo sandwich with a poached egg on top. So with the help of a new friend on Twitter, who goes by the name of Zap Shakur, who came up with a much better name for sure, we're actually going to call this a Madame Cristo. But mashed up names aside, this really was extraordinarily delicious, and here's how you put one together. And first up, we'll make the batter in which we're going to dip our bread. And that's going to start with one large egg, to which we will add a splash of heavy cream. And yes, if you want, you could probably go with milk here, which won't be quite as rich. And then we'll also want to toss in a big pinch of salt, as well as a little shake of cayenne. And then we'll follow that up with a little bit of nutmeg, which as usual, we will freshly grate in. And then because I do want some lemon flavor, but don't want the acidity, I'm going to go ahead and grate in about a teaspoon of zest. And believe it or not, that's going to be it for this very, very simple batter. All we have left to do is take a fork and give this a mix until two things happen. First, all of our ingredients get mixed up thoroughly, but also we want to keep forking this until the mixture goes from kind of thick and viscous to something a little thinner and more runny. Okay, something just about like this. And once that's been accomplished, what we'll do is simply set that aside and move on to talk bread. And for this, I'm suggesting we go with something white, tasteless, and devoid of any nutritional content. And while yes, you can make this with whole grain bread, you never should. And then one little trick we're going to do before we build our sandwich and dip it in the egg, we are actually going to give it a light toasting first. All right, not too dark, be careful. And what that's going to do, besides obviously adding some toasty flavor notes, it's also going to dry out the bread a little bit, which is going to help it soak in the batter. So just a little trick I came up with back in the 80s. I think it was the 80s. And then once our toast is done, we'll go ahead and add our ham and cheese, or in this case, cheese and ham. And traditionally, we would use Gruyere, but because this sandwich is going to be pretty decadent, and Gruyere has such a rich, buttery, nutty flavor, I decided to go with something a little milder and use Havarti. But literally any melty cheese would work. And then once that's down, we'll place on our ham, except we have a major problem. Our bread is square, but our ham is round. A problem that stumped mathematicians for centuries. But eventually, a famous ham geometrist discovered the solution, which was just simply cutting the ham in half, thereby creating straight edges, which allows us to perfectly align our meat up to the edge. So it really was quite a breakthrough, and way easier than inventing round bread. And then what we'll do for those shorter sides is simply cut those last pieces in half, and we'll finish that off as shown. And by the way, since we're going to press this together, we could have just done that on one half. But it really doesn't matter, as long as we eventually and carefully press these two halves together, at which point we're going to dip it into our egg mixture. And I say dip, but I really mean soak, since we want our bread to absorb the maximum amount possible. So take your time, flip it back and forth, until you're sure it can't take any more. Oh, and I should mention I'm doing a totally savory version here. But if you wanted, you could use our regular French toast batter, which has a little bit of a sweeter flavor profile. It includes things like a little bit of cinnamon and vanilla. So if you want to switch that up, go ahead. I mean, you guys are after all the San Franciscos of your Madame Cristos. And speaking of fryers, once we've reached full saturation, let's head to the stove so we can pan fry this in some butter, over medium heat, until golden brown and crispy on the outside, but also until the inside's heated through, and our cheese is nice and gooey. And other than just keeping an eye on it, the only tip here would be not to use too high of a heat. Alright, I said medium, but you might need to adjust, since we don't want the outside cooking too fast and possibly burning before that cheese inside gets all nice and melty. And then besides pan frying this, we will also want to fry or poach an egg to put on top. And if you're just doing one or two of these, you could probably do it at the same time. But if you're doing these for a large group, I'm going to put a link in the blog post that explains how to do that completely stress-free, as well as it will show our complete poached egg technique, since I'm not showing that here. But anyway, the point is we're going to need to cook an egg. And while that finishes up, we'll go back and check our pan, where as you can see, everything's looking quite nice. And I really should have thought to do a fork scrape here, so you could hear just how crispy this was. But it didn't occur to me, so I apologize. But anyway, once we're confident our crustification is complete, we'll transfer that onto a plate and possibly garnish it with some greens. And once our prop salad is set, we'll go ahead and top with our poached egg, which of course we've gone ahead and pulled off any of the ugly stringy white parts. And we will finish that off with a little shake of cayenne, as well as some strategically placed sliced chives. And while ultimately this didn't turn out to be the thing I planned it to turn out to be, it was still absolutely magnificent and would have been amazing even without the egg. But with the egg, well, just watch. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. And I'm actually getting smarter in my old age, as I cut a piece from the back so as not to wreck that full frontal view. And if you're thinking that hot honey ham with melted Havarti, sandwiched between crispy fried French toast, topped with a poached egg would be delicious, you could not be more correct. This really was phenomenal. And even though I did go 100% savory here, as I was eating this, I was thinking, this would be really good using a sweeter batter for the French toast. Which in that case, I might top it with some maple syrup. Or not. Depends on my mood. So whether you're planning on making this for some fancy brunch, or for just some casual weeknight dinner, or you simply can't decide between having a croque madame and a Monte Cristo sandwich, I really do hope you give this incredible concoction a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.